Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Greatness alert. News flash. Greatness alert. Michael Gielen's Das Klagende Lied has come out. It's a live recording featuring the Wiener Sing Academy and the ORF, that's the Vienna Austrian Vienna Radio Symphony Orchestra, with soloist Birgitta Poschner-Klebel. For all you Poschner-Klebel fans, your ship has come in. Mariana Lipovshek, David Randall, tenor, and Manfred Hamm, bass. And it was recorded in, I think this is 1990, which is like a really good year for Das Klagende Lied. Yes, August 1990, and it's unbelievably fabulous. I am not kidding. The only thing that puts a little damper on the festivities is that this did not come out from SWR, so SWR couldn't include it in their Gielen Mahler box, number one. And number two, it was not out when I did my talk on Das Klagende Lied, so I couldn't include it, because if I had this, my friends, would have been the best one. It would have been the best one by a mile. I mean, that's not really true, by a good hunk. I mean, the best ones, which were Chailly's on Decca and the Michael Tilson Thomas San Francisco at RCA, they're both still wonderful. They're both very, 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 very good. Oh boy, this live one, wow, holy mackerel! It's a knockout, just a knockout. True, it is live, which means, well, the balances are pretty natural. Sometimes the soloists get a little bit drowned out by everybody. You don't always understand what the chorus is singing about. Not that it matters. It doesn't. It doesn't. The best thing about this is Gielen's conducting. He conducts it. Well, Gielen was Gielen. He took himself and everything seriously, and he was the absolute master of nihilistic, expressionistic horror. And that's what this is about. It's about nihilistic, expressionistic horror, more or less. Do you know the story? Let me go through the story really quickly. Just really quickly. I know I did it already in the previous video, but what the hell? Okay, here's the story. There is a stolze Königin, a proud, haughty queen. She's very proud. She's very haughty. She's really a bitch. You wouldn't want to know why anybody would want to marry her, but they all do. Why? Who knows? She's beautiful. It's a fairy tale. So she will only marry the guy who finds the beautiful magic flower that's growing in the middle of the forest. And there's only one of them for some reason. This flower, there's only room for one flower in this forest. And so these two brothers go off in search of it. Now, one of them is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, proto-Nazi type, the Aryan ideal. He's the supposedly good guy. Then the other is the swarthy, dark-haired, weaselly, mustachioed, actual Nazi type. Yes, and they go off together, and of course, the blonde, hunky guy finds the flower, and the dark-haired brother immediately murders him to take the flower back to the queen so that they can get married. That's part one. Now, in part two, a minstrel is tootling along through the forest, and he sees a bunch of human bones lying in a clearing, and he says, gee, here's a nice one, like a thigh bone or something like that. I'm going to make myself a flute. And so he drills it, and he reams it out, and he makes himself a flute. And he plays the flute, and the flute tells the story of the murder. And the minstrel thinks to himself, I should take this fabulous flute and play this terrific tune. That's the Klagende Lied. Klagende Lied. Klagende means kvetching. It means lamenting, complaining, moaning and groaning. So it's the song of lament. And he thinks that this would make perfect entertainment music at the queen's wedding to the king, who is, of course, the evil brother, because they've gotten married, they're getting married and all that stuff, right? So off he goes to the castle. Now, in part three, the wedding is in full cry with an incredibly trashy dance band playing along. I just love Mahler, you know. This was his first exploration of like really trashy, vulgar music to represent really trashy, vulgar music, and boy, does it work. It's an offstage band, and it's playing this awful dance music. It's marvelous. You'll hear some. And he comes in and he plays the flute, and the flute tells this story, and the queen immediately becomes pale and frigid. She probably already was, but that's another issue. And then the evil brother jumps up and grabs the flute and irresistibly puts it to his lips and plays it. And the flute accuses him of the murder. And the whole castle collapses and everybody dies. That's the story. Isn't it great? So, like I said, now, you can play it like a fairy tale and sort of cutesy it up. It's a grim fairy tale. That's what it is. Or you can do what Michael Gielen does, which is take everything completely seriously and wring every drop of expressionistic horror out of the score. And God knows Mahler gives you plenty of opportunities to do just that. But there's a big issue in Das Klagende Lied regarding which edition you're going to use, because Mahler's original, which we have right here, from 1880, this sucker, it's kind of large, as you can see, was in 3 parts. And he never had any opportunity to get it performed. It was never going to be performed. He submitted it to win a prize or something. The judges must have been appalled. Anyway, it didn't win. It's really good. It was only first performed a couple decades ago. Ken Nagano recorded it on Erato, long out of print. That's the only recording of the original version, which shocks me, because it's wonderful. There's no reason not to do the original version, especially nowadays when everybody is doing original versions, particularly of, Bruckner. There's no reason not to do the original version of this. Mahler symphonies are another issue, I really do believe. But this, why not? It's his earliest work. It's just great. But in order to get it performed, he revised it. And in revising it, he took out the original part 1, which is called Waldmärchen, or wood fairy tale sort of thing. And so normally, or when Mahler performed it in his lifetime, he only did parts 2 and 3, which were very heavily revised. And in parts 2 and 3, you start with the minstrel finding the bones. It leaves out the murder scene because, of course, it's all going to get repeated and told all over again every time you pick up the damn flute and play it. You got to hear about the murder. So that was that. But nowadays, it has become customary to take the original part 1 and wed it to the revised, right here, parts 2 and 3, restoring 3 parts, but with Mahler's revisions. And the only reason I can think of for doing that really is because the revisions are just so bloody effective. I mean, Mahler is such a great orchestrator, and 99% of his changes are for the better. They really are. Not that there's anything wrong with the older stuff. It's just that it's better. It's that simple. And that's what Michael Gielen and Michael Tilson Thomas and Ricardo Chailly and Pierre Boulez and everyone who's done the 3-part versions, Sinopoli and Boulez and all those people, that's what they do when they do the 3-part version. I really, really love this piece. It has freshness and color, and the story is just gruesome and entertaining and wonderful for all kinds of gauche and garish orchestral color and orchestration, which Mahler supplies with the relish and tastelessness of a 20-year-old really feeling his stuff, getting himself going. It's just fantastic. And this performance, like I said, is incredible. But hearing is believing. And so I'm going to play you an excerpt. I'm going to play you the climax of the 3rd movement, which Gielen does better than anybody. Now, this particular climax, I'm going to tell you what it says. You have to understand. You won't understand the chorus, even if you understand German. It's too much going on and too much screaming and shrieking and whatnot. But here is the text. Let us see here. Aufspringt der König von seinem Thron. That's the king leaps up from his throne. Und blickt auf die Hochzeitsrund. And peers at the wedding guests, according to this. Und nimmt die Flöte in frevelnden Höhen. Frevelnden? Yes, frevelnden. Frevelndem. And it says here, he seizes the flute with an outraged sneer. or look, or something, expression. Freveln them. That must be outraged. Okay. I mean, if you can say it, you can do it, right? Unsetzt sie selbst. The alliteration. It's just to die for, isn't it? Unsetzt sie selbst an den Mond, and puts the flute itself, himself, to his mouth by himself. Yes. Oh, Schrecken! Schrecken, Schrecken, Schrecken! Oh, the Schreckenness of it all! Oh, Schrecken, was nun da erklang, which is, oh, horror! What do we hear now? What sound does it make? Oh, yeah. So, and then let's see. Do you hear the tidings that, let's see, with mortal fright? Yeah, that's the next line. Hurst ear die something. Who cares? It's all stupid. It doesn't make any difference. So that's what they're saying during the passage I'm going to play you. Now, this particular passage was revised at least 3 or 4 times, and I have scores that have it written differently in the brass and percussion parts. First, there's like a boom and a crash and a boom and a crash with the cymbals, and then they take that out, and the brass instead have the syncopated rhythm, which is cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, like that. And then they get muted, and the whole thing gets moved back a few bars. But the important thing is the tam-tam. The tam-tam on Schrecken, usually on horror. Usually you don't hear it at all, which is insanely annoying. It should just explode. There's a tam-tam and a bass drum going whomp, and then there's a big roll. Well, Gielen, the master of nihilistic horror music, lets you hear it. You really hear it. You hear. You hear the Schrecken. The Schrecken is schrecklich. It's a schrecklichste Schrecken. It's fabulous. So let me just play it for you because I'm getting so excited about this. It's unbelievable. It's such a great performance. It is so thrilling. Let's listen to this passage. Here it is. Yes, that's the real deal, isn't it? And, one of the things that's so marvelous about Gielen's conducting in this is just the incredible flexibility of pulse, the spontaneity, the freshness of it all. The fact that every word an opportunity for coloristic underlining of the text, he just seizes it with both hands, and it's a boom and a boom. It's a knockout. He just blows the roof off the piece. It's a fantastic Das Klagende Lied. So if you are a Mahler fan, and who isn't, and you don't know this work, or you've always been vaguely dissatisfied with the other recordings, get this. Get it while you can. Get it now. You are going to be so happy. I guarantee it. It's, like I said, it's live. The audience is quiet. The Austrian radio engineers do a really good job with it. There's so much clarity, so much, I can't even, you heard it. You heard it yourself. When the just before the Schrecken part, when he's putting the flute to his mouth, you hear the winds on the top screaming. That's what this is supposed to sound like. It really has that blood and guts then it's got to have it that today's conductors seem to have such a hard time realizing this is a great recording, a landmark Mahler performance, a magnificent addition to the Gielen Mahler discography. Buy it, listen to it, love it, and keep on listening. Thanks, folks. Take care.